Well, hello, and welcome to the Best Fleets to Drive For podcast. My name is Mark Morrell. I'm a co-founder of Carrier's Edge and co-creator of the Best Fleets to Drive For program. And for this episode of our podcast, we're going to be talking to the sponsors of the Best Fleets program, the three sponsors of the overall awards, and getting a little bit of their perspective on what they see in the industry, why they're involved, and in general, what they think about things. First up today is going to be Dirk Kupar, co-founder and president of TruckRight. And it occurs to me, Dirk, that I am not sure if that's actually your title. So I'm going to pass that over to you to introduce yourself, correct me, and then we will get started on what we're going to talk about today. Welcome, Dirk.
Thank you, Mark. And as far as titles go, chief cook and bottle washer, but no, co-founder, CEO of TruckRight. My wife, Lisa, and I are the founders of TruckRight.
Okay, excellent. So welcome to the podcast. I want to start by asking a little bit about what is TruckRight. So give us a quick overview of your service and what it is that you guys do for the industry.
So TruckRight is an HRIS specifically targeting the trucking industry, hence TruckRight. We are a compliance software onboarding tool and on the front end, a recruiting platform, applicant tracking, as some people would call it.
Okay. And you've been a sponsor of the Best Fleets Award for a couple of years now. So tell us, what prompted you to get involved in the program? Why did you think that would be a useful fit for your organization?
As a former owner-operator or former driver, Best Fleets to Drive For is kind of something that I would want to know about a company. So it really intrigued me to see behind the scenes of what really these fleets were doing and what made them the best fleets. And frankly, would I drive for them? Are they catching my eye? Is the actions that they're doing something that I as a driver would be interested in?
Okay. Well, if your business is HR management software, it kind of fits to be involved in an HR evaluation program. So through your few years as a sponsor of the program, you've been involved in the various adventures that we have at the convention every year, recognizing the winners and participating in other events throughout the year. So what do you notice about the best fleets that you interact with? Do you see a difference between them and other fleets, or is there anything that sort of stands out to you about them?
Pride is the anybody that's been nominated or fleet to watch, there's immense pride within their organization. And the fleets that are on the outside looking in, they're very inquisitive of how to get there. And I think most of them truly are looking for best practices and how to make themselves emulate their peers.
Okay. And in terms of the way they run their businesses, and you have a wide range of customers, small fleets, large fleets, some that are on the best fleets list, some that are finalists, and some that haven't even been involved. But do you see differences in how they operate or how they approach the HR function within their companies?
I would suggest the fleets that there is a core group of them that are starting to understand that HR really needs to be considered when it comes to recruiting. Recruiting really for the last bunch of years has been its own little thing, and it was a big thing, not little thing. But I think these fleets are starting to understand the culture and the people relationship really matter, and they're putting more of an HR. They may not have that HR titled person, but they're definitely putting more of a talent optimization, talent relationship as a forefront. And I think that would be a commonality between the best fleets that we've seen that have been finalists and winners.
Okay. We had a chance to talk about this a little bit before we started recording, but you mentioned that you really noticed a shift in the past year in the industry in terms of HR strategy. So let's talk a little bit about that.
And that is so true. There were some points that you were making that I completely agreed that needed to change. And one of the things that I am actively seeing is people are putting a lot of effort into retention as a company. And what I mean by that isn't they're hiring a retention person or saying it's that person's job. They're really looking deep within their organization and how is the relationship from onboarding to the person doing the road test to how operations interacts with the drivers, and they're really trying to identify the culture to look for that uniqueness to them so that they can emulate, repeat that out to not only new hires, but right now retention is a big strategy for recruiting. And one of the things I ask fleets quite often is what percentage of their new hires is referrals, and if those referrals is a low percentage, what's that telling you about your company? Mm-hmm. So I think they're really paying attention to that.
That's interesting. One of the things that we have seen for years now is that there are definitely companies that have great safety scores, have fabulous retention, but really aren't doing very much. They've just gotten lucky. They've found the right group of drivers for their lanes and their equipment, and it just sort of all fits, but they're not really making a lot of effort. And those companies never are able to crack through into the top 20 because they are sort of coasting. And it might be great right now, but eventually those drivers are going to retire or they're going to leave for one reason or another. And that company is really going to be sort of behind in terms of attracting other people. So you talk about the culture and sort of the focus on figuring out what they're all about. And I really notice that as well, that the people that do well in the Best Fleets programs are the ones that are making an effort. And sometimes they may not have stellar retention right now, but you can see that they're working towards that. So I would imagine you probably see this in your business with the HR systems, is that it's important to attract the right people. It's important to work on retention, but those efforts to improve the experience in that sort of end-to-end life cycle of a driver and that whole business of efficiency within operations to support the driver, those are the things that tend to separate the finalists from the best fleets a lot of the time. So I imagine that you see a lot of that when you're doing your system implementations and things like that as well, right?
Some of the discussions that I've had with fleets regarding their onboarding and their retention is how do they differentiate themselves from their competitors, and what are they doing? What's that first impression look like? And is the first impression all the used furniture or plastic chairs in a cold concrete floored room where your boardroom's got all fancy leather chairs? Mm-hmm. Are you putting them up at the cheesiest hotel that's you probably wouldn't send your own family to? Like, it really speaks to who you are right from the beginning and first impressions. One of our clients recently they were doing some construction at their building, and they had this beautiful grand entrance on the old building, and they changed the grand entrance to be where the drivers came in. The driver's door was around the side. Mm-hmm. So they redid their front entrance, pretty simplistic, functional, but where the drivers came in, they put some architecture and really made it welcoming. Then when you went into the building, they redid the driver's area and made it more like a lounge or a reception area at a hotel. It just changing, and those sort of things really, the driver, again, it's all about first impressions and mm-hmm. lasting impressions.
Yeah, it's funny you mentioned those hotels that you wouldn't stay in, wouldn't send your family to, and yeah, we've both stayed in those hotels over the years. Yeah, generally not twice though.
Yep, exactly.
Yeah. Well, it certainly, and it's funny. It's the effort, but it's also kind of figuring out the story. We were talking earlier about people that started or used to talk a lot about our family atmosphere, and we have an open door policy. And we saw that in the Best Fleets program for years. It almost became like bingo for us, is like, yep, they've got an open door policy. Yep, drivers are known by name, not a number. And yep, safety comes first. But everybody says the exact same thing. And it's really at that point where it's meaningless. So what tends to make fleets do well in the program is figuring out what else, great, but what next? And a lot of it is just sort of figuring out how to tell that story. And I think you're probably seeing that as well, that the fleets that have figured out who they are and how to communicate that and how to talk to the audience, talk to the public about what they're all about, are the ones that are having better success. Would you say?
I would 100% agree. You need to know who you are. If you don't know who you are, buy the book, The Purple Cow. I'm not going to get into it right now, but buy the book.
Fabulous. Yeah. Seth Godin. Yeah.
Yeah. But you need, once you know who you are, that needs to be your marketing at the beginning. It needs to be your who you are internally, and to find out why you're that purple cow, you've got to bring your team in to identify it. It can't be management doesn't say this is why we're this. Your team needs to tell you who you are, and your core values. And I know it sounds kind of cliche, but what are the core values of your company, and identify them and live it, breathe it.
Well, it's interesting when you get into that exercise, because people talk about their core values a lot, and a lot of them are interchangeable. You could take the list and put somebody else's logo up there and it would be the same. So I actually was attending a presentation, that was, I think it was last spring, and somebody was talking about this kind of thing and said, how do you know if you have a good one? It said the opposite of that is also a good one. May not be a good one for you, but it's a good one for somebody else. So, for instance, we serve fleets in this segment. Well, the opposite of that would also be a really good kind of core value statement for somebody else. And I think a lot of people kind of need to step back and say, well, is this black and white enough that the opposite of it is also going to be a valued or a valuable statement? Because a lot of them are like, well, we're an honest company. Well, who isn't? Everybody thinks they're an honest company, right? Is anybody going to say the opposite of that? If nobody's going to say the opposite of it, you haven't really found your core value statement. So it's good to see people paying attention to that.
And really, some of them are getting a little silly. I saw one recently, one of their core values was bacon, badass communicators or not. And then there was a paragraph, like it was fun. It wasn't just, but it was them. There's a marketing company in Toronto. One of their core values is give a crap. And if you don't give a crap, go work for somebody else.
Yep.
So it's having a little bit of fun with it as well, and making it, and if that's not politically correct for your organization, or maybe it's not provocative enough, maybe you could go from give a crap to give whatever. But again, it's who you are, but your team's got to be involved in it. And passion is, I know day to day and COVID and all these things can get in the way, but people are people, and you got to remember that. The other thing, I think the best fleets, and one of the common things that I've seen, Mark, is people are hung up on the old treat people the way you want to be treated. And that ain't it. Treat people the way they need to be treated. Listen to who you're talking to. Listen to what because you and I have known each other a long time. We're very different people. And what makes me tick and what makes you tick is different. And if I expect you to treat me the way I treat, I need to know who you are and give you that. And that's one of the things I think is a big differentiator with fleets, is they actually use these ears that they have and listen and give the individual what they need, not how they want to be treated.
Yeah. Okay. Yes. Very good insights. Very good insights. And speaking of treating people well and having a bit of fun with it, we are going to be heading to the convention shortly. So we're recording this a few weeks before, but I think it actually will be released just before we head down to Vegas for the convention. So what do you look forward to when you go to the TCA annual convention every year? You don't have to say the best fleets program.
The camaraderie and seeing people, and as vendors, it's getting all those your friends, and a lot of these people have become our friends. Getting them in one place, and whether they're a competitor, they're still friends. One of my biggest competitors, I go for lunch with their salesperson every time I see him. Like, we just have a really good rapport. So what do I look forward? And it's pretty much the same at all conferences I go to. is running into people that I haven't seen in a while and interacting with them. TCA annual convention, the best fleets. There's just some really great fleets there, and I go to learn from them. And what are you doing now to try to steal little nuggets? The best, I think I take lots of your best fleets books when I'm done, and I any candidate that's looking at our product, you want to talk about best practice? Take a look at this. And that's not a sales pitch. That's truth.
Okay. And so talk a little bit about the award presentation itself. So that happens on a Monday morning. We bring everybody together in advance to do a rehearsal. And I know that Jane, our CEO, sort of organizes that and runs that rehearsal. And she can be a bit harsh. She is a bit of a drill sergeant. She owns that. That's fine. We've got to make sure everybody knows where to stand. Do you find that nerve-wracking at all, getting ready for that and figuring out all the positioning and everything?
Well, she got my name right this year, so that was good.
It's always nice, right?
But no, it's now that we've done it a few times, it's good. And the people, everybody's there to help each other. Even though the fleets are competitors and some of the other vendors are somewhat competitive, at that moment in time, everybody's there just to enjoy the time and help each other. And if somebody's maybe not where they should be, there's always somebody there politely, friendly to help them or help that person get into the right place.
Yeah.
That way they don't feel the wrath of Jane.
Yes. Well, we're actually thinking this year that we might have stage buddies, because there's going to be a bunch of people that are doing it for the first time. Yep. And it's so bizarre, the things that you never consider until you have to do it. Like, where do I stand? When do I walk in front of this person? What hand am I holding this plaque in? All of those kind of things. So people get up on stage, and if they haven't done it before, they sometimes get a little bit anxious, and they can be nervous and stand in the wrong spot, and it throws off everything. So yeah, it is always funny to me just how many little bits need to be coordinated for that 9 minutes on stage.
Remember to smile. You're about to have your photo taken, buddy. Take a smile, relax, enjoy it.
Yeah.
Some of the photos that I've seen, including on my own, you almost look like you're.
Yep. So is there anything, now that you've done it for a few years, anything that you sort of prep as you're getting ready to do that award presentation? Or I know you do a new video each year, but is there anything else that you guys do?
I don't think we market to our clients and non-clients the whole thing that we're going to be there. To us, it's a big deal. It's any sponsorship's a serious commitment, and we want to make sure that we're fully prepared. But no, it's now that we've done a few years, there's no apprehension. I know what's expected, know where to be.
Good. Okay.
But it's good.
And your video looked great this year. It was a really nice video. And so is there a lot of work in putting those together?
When we first, again, it's a sponsorship, and your first mind could go to, okay, I want to give myself a plug. And what we've done is kind of taken the opposite approach. Is why is it valuable to them? So our videos that we show are from driver's perspective, or from fleet owner's perspective, or from fleet manager's perspective. So it's, yes, we say we're proud to be the sponsor, and that's about the end of what we do about us. The rest of it is really drivers saying why they feel their company's best fleet, and management, why do they put so much energy into a program. So that's what our video is about, is really giving them a platform to share and hopefully get more fleets involved in best fleets, because it really, as it's grown, I think it's challenged the fleets to get better. Not just, okay, we're here, we're still here, we haven't changed anything, we're still here. There's people nipping at their heels, so they've got to keep going, or somebody else is going to go over them. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, very good. Yeah, you kind of give them a platform. You make sure that they get heard, basically, through the video.
That's our goal, is to really it's a sales tool to best fleets. Is our kind of our mindset of it.
Okay. Well, I think that is an excellent place to wrap this up. So any last thoughts on the award, the program itself, your sponsorship?
I'm just looking forward to seeing everybody in Vegas. That little private party that we get to be involved in is something that your audience should try to get involved in. And the only way they can do it is by working hard and getting themselves nominated into the Best Fleets program.
All right. Excellent. Well, thanks very much, Dirk. This has been an excellent session, and I look forward to seeing you in Vegas. All right, we are back with the second segment of our podcast, talking to our sponsors. And I'm joined today in this segment, by Wes Pollock from Eleos Technologies. Wes is the VP of Sales and Partnerships, and this year is joining us as a first-time sponsor. So welcome, Wes, to the Best Fleets program, and welcome to the podcast.
Thanks, Mark. Appreciate the invitation. I'm glad to be here.
So to get started, let's talk a little bit about what Eleos does. So tell us a bit about the company and your background and how you guys come to be serving the trucking industry.
Sure. It's kind of a long story, but we started about 10 years ago in the industry with an app that essentially scanned documents, and drivers would download that app and send those documents to their respective companies, and then those companies would turn around and download those images. Quickly turned into, though, a need for better driver communication between the back office and the driver. We found that a lot of companies were struggling to, for example, communicate with the driver outside of the cab of the truck. So over the past 10 years, we've created a really robust mobile platform that allows trucking companies to create their own driver app. And the difference between us and others that might look like us is that we give full control over that driver experience to our customer. So they're unencumbered by their vendors for communication or having to use multiple apps. So we kind of help them aggregate everything into one place for the driver. So
okay, so you're helping both the fleet and the driver to kind of make for a better experience on the road, increase communication, increase workflow efficiency, things like that, right?
Correct. I mean, heavy focus on the driver's experience. How can we help that driver better communicate more effectively and be more productive? But there's also benefits on the back end as well. There are a lot of reasons that maybe dispatchers are calling drivers or having to send multiple messages. We can eliminate a lot of that just by simply using modern technology.
Okay, interesting. So what prompted you to get involved with the Best Fleets program?
So I'll say that, let's see, I'm going on 8 years in the industry now. And over time at the TCA events, I've watched the Best Fleets award ceremony. And we kept noticing that a lot of our customers were showing up on stage. And so over time, it's just been understanding that, something our customers care deeply about is the driver and the driver's experience with their company. And so it seemed natural, really, to be a part of this program for us, because I believe that all the fleets that are on stage or will be on stage in the next couple of weeks that's something they care tremendously about.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so you're interacting with a lot of different fleets across the industry. Some of them that are making it onto the Best Fleets list. What are some of the things that you notice that separate the Best Fleets from the others in terms of their interactions with drivers, mobile apps, things like that?
Yeah, so I would say that probably the thing that stands out is that the driver's the hero. The companies that are talking about the drivers being the backbone of the organization and why we're all here. It's hard to, we see how much these companies do to recruit and retain the best driving talent, but it's another thing to actually live it. And so, I would say that a heavy focus on the driver being the hero of their story. We also see a lot of those companies have a high focus in safety, right? They're very concerned about having safe drivers on the road. So I would say those two things probably stand out amongst the best
That's interesting because everybody says the driver is the hero. Everybody talks about
That's right.
it, but I almost find that the companies that are doing it really well don't talk about it so much. They kind of let the actions speak. They demonstrate it, and the drivers are the ones that are saying, we feel like the hero here, rather than the company saying it. Do you find the same thing?
Well, I do, but it's a culture thing, right? It's every department within the organization focused on making the driver's life, great, making it be a place where they want to work, where they want to go drive for. So, I mean, it's not just the recruiting department; it's operations, it's the sales department, it's marketing. I think it's anybody that driver would interact with that would be proud to work for that company.
Yeah, well, that's a good point. It isn't just something that's being said by recruiting or said by safety. It's
culture.
Yeah, it's being demonstrated by all of these other groups that have an effect on the driver's experience. So yeah, that's interesting. And if we look back over the past sort of couple of years of the pandemic, lots of things have changed. It's been quite a wild ride for 2 years. What are the things that you've noticed sort of changing or emerging as trends in this area over the last couple of years?
Well, I can specifically speak to mobile, right? Because that's the world we live in, as mobile driver communication. I would say that it is really no longer unique for a trucking company to have a driver app. These drivers expect it. It's a tool that has become table stakes, and so what we're really focused on is providing a platform that allows trucking companies to really execute their business strategy quickly through a mobile app. And so if I've seen a change over the years, everybody used to want to have an app to differentiate themselves. Well, it's really not a differentiator anymore. It's about having a strong app that works when the driver wants it to work, and it's communicating the information that they need at that given moment. So there's been a shift in mobile for sure.
Yeah, that's interesting. When it switches from being the thing that pushes you above the pack to the thing that you need to just be keeping up. And we've certainly seen that as well in evaluating the participants that, 5 years ago, if you had a mobile app, you were out there, you were at the front of the pack there in terms of what you're offering for drivers. And now it's at the point where I think if people have a mobile app, it kind of gives them sort of the middle of the road scores. It might give them like a 2 out of a 4 or something like that, because there are still some people who don't. But there's enough of them that have a dedicated app that we can't really treat that as being special anymore. Like it's just like everybody's got one. It's not complicated anymore to have those.
I will say we've seen a shift in the cab of the truck as well as it relates to mobile. I mean, we see a lot of trucking companies that want the same experience, both in the cab as well as out of the cab for the driver. One system to learn, something that's easy to use.
That's interesting. So do you find that companies will take an app that they have you build and they'll put it on their tablets in their cab and then give it to the driver for their personal phone or something like that too?
That's right. So it happened in reverse though. So historically, companies would hire us to have a companion app for their drivers, right? Something that they could have on a BYOD device, the phone that they bring to the table, But what we're seeing now is the shift of wanting that same type of experience in the cab of the truck as well. So, a tablet, a managed device on the dashboard that the driver uses to do his or her work, but can also be that extension outside of the cab as well.
Yeah, that's interesting. And I think that's one of the sort of unspoken benefits of the move that we've seen with all of these in-cab devices to Android, where they used to be proprietary operating systems. Now they're all Android. You have the same app on your phone, on your personal tablet, on the device in the cab, and access the same stuff everywhere, which got to make things a lot better for the driver for sure.
That's true. And also offering a place for the driver that kind of aggregates everything into one spot. I mentioned that earlier, but as we've gotten more advanced in technology in this industry, every provider has a mobile app for drivers, right? And so a lot of times it's the challenge of, well, I don't want my driver to use 7 to 12 apps. I really want to pull that together. And so we can help companies do that.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I go through that internally with the number of different applications that we use, in-house for different things for communication and documentation and all of that other stuff. And yeah, it's a long list when somebody gets onboarded. So I can totally see the driver who doesn't want to be spending time with that, who isn't spending their whole day sitting in front of a computer anyway. They just want something simple. It's convenient. It's all in one place. They don't want those headaches. Yeah, for sure.
That's right. There's a lot of productivity lost just by switching applications, right? So,
yeah, or trying to remember which one is where and what do I do in this one again? Yeah,
that's right.
sure. One of the things that we used to see a lot on the e-learning side, and finally it's kind of been eradicated by COVID, is this business of drivers can't use technology, or drivers don't want to use computers, or they don't want to use devices or whatever. I mean, that's got to be something that you would have encountered periodically years ago, but I'm imagining that that's pretty much gone now, right?
Oh, for sure. I mean, even amongst the fleets that use our technology as a companion app, and it's a voluntary program. I mean, you've got usage in the high 90s, right? And so drivers are no longer. I mean, they're carrying smartphones now. They're not carrying laptops around with them anymore. A lot of the flip phones are gone because the carriers, they're not providing them anymore. And so, Android and Apple have done a good job proliferating their products through the market, and data has become cheaper. And so it's a tool. I remember sitting in math class in elementary school and my teacher telling me, you'll never have a calculator in your pocket. You need to be able to do math. Well, I mean, we all have one, right? So.
Yeah, that's interesting. And it's one of the sort of positive side effects, I think, of the pandemic, is that all of those people that were clinging to flip phones or saying, no, I want to do it in person, they didn't have a choice for a while. So it was sort of forced into doing these things online and forced to get comfortable with it. And while people are going back to in person and going back to some of those older approaches, they're not completely getting rid of the new stuff. They're not completely getting rid of technology because they've figured out how to make it fit in with the other things that they're doing. So it ends up being another tool that just improves efficiency for everybody.
I agree completely.
Yeah, okay. So we are recording this in early March. We're going to be releasing this episode in, I think, mid-March, just before we head to Vegas for the convention. So let's talk a little bit about that. That's always a fun time. What are you looking forward to at the convention this year?
Oh man, I'm really looking forward to getting back in front of people. I think a lot of people would say the same thing. Having a pause during COVID on these conferences, there's something, like you said, to being face to face. So we're looking forward to seeing our customers. We're looking forward to seeing our partners. We've been spending a tremendous amount of time preparing for the event, and the sponsorship as well. We've gotten marketing involved, and we created a video for you guys, and we were LinkedIn campaigns, and sales has been working hard to get appointments. We're increasing our presence this year at the conference. We're increasing our booth size, and so there's been a lot of preparation work and just getting prepared for this TCA event. So we're very much looking forward to it.
Oh, good. And yeah, as a first-time sponsor, you kind of are seeing behind the curtain a little bit, the stuff that used to be things you'd only see from the front of the stage, and now you're getting more involved in a little bit of the backstage part of it with the preparation. You mentioned the video, and I know we sent off the presentation script earlier this week, so you can see how the whole thing is going to proceed when we get to the award presentation. But what's that experience been like, having to go through all of those things and getting to see all of that stuff?
I think it's just been interesting, like anything else. You guys make it look so easy once you're on stage, but there's a tremendous amount of preparation that goes in from everybody to be able to pull this off. And so it's been interesting to watch that. There's a lot of prep work that goes into the program. So
yeah, you did mention your video. So what was involved in that? You guys did a very nice video, and I'm amazed that you got all of that message in a single take. So that must have been quite a bit of work.
Oh, that's Kevin. He's good at that. So yeah, I mean, it was, I guess, coming on as a new sponsor this year, we had a shortened timeline to get that video created. And so we scrambled a little bit with marketing and getting a production crew in. We were able to pull it off. And we actually shot the video at our new location. We have a a new office in the Clemson area where we have a program for the computer science students there, and so that's where we shot our video. But next year we'll have a little more time to prepare for that. But it was I think it's going to turn out okay. So
well, it turned out great, and I'll tell you a secret: everybody knows when the videos need to be in, and nobody works on them in advance. They're all last minute every year. So
good.
You say
I don't feel
now
so bad,
that you will do it early, but it'll be February next year, and you're like, oh crap, we got to get a video done. Yeah, it happens to, and even now, like this is our 14th year doing it, and every year there's something where it's like, oh my God, I almost forgot about that. We've got to do it, even though we have tons of lists of documentation of things that need to be done and last year's notes and all of that other stuff. So there's always something that falls through the crack, and yeah. But that's sort of the fun of it, is there's always something to do there. There's always some excitement around it. So that's great. So any last thoughts on the program, or in general thoughts about the industry or where you're at before we wrap it up?
Yeah, no, I would just say that we're honored to be a part of this program. We're excited about the sponsorship. We know we see every day how hard these fleets work to both recruit and retain drivers, and they deserve to be rewarded from that, and be nominated by their drivers. And so we're just grateful to be here and look forward to the event. So,
okay. Well, thanks, Wes, and we'll see you in Las Vegas in a couple of weeks. All right, and rounding out our episode of interviews with our Best Fleet sponsors, I'm joined for this third and final segment by Kyle Hales, VP of Sales at EpicVue and a partner in the company as well. EpicVue, I'm going to give a little bit of opportunity for Kyle to introduce the company, but EpicVue is interesting as the oldest sponsor and the one that has now sponsored 2 different parts of the program. So welcome, Kyle. Welcome to the podcast.
Thank you, Mark. It's my pleasure to be here. Thanks for inviting us.
So let's start off by having you give a little bit of an overview of what EpicVue is all about, and what you guys do.
Yeah, sure. EpicVue, its roots go back to 2013, where we partnered with DirecTV and wanted to bring in-cab satellite television to the over-the-road fleet companies and drivers. And so prior to working at EpicVue, or having started EpicVue, we created a partnership with DirecTV many years before. And when they were pitched on the idea of our creating this program for the over-the-road space, they fell in love with it immediately and really got behind it. And so since 2013, our mission, our goal has been to work with the truckload carriers, the over-the-road fleets, and providing their drivers a little bit better quality of life while out there on the road. So our system comprises of an all-inclusive package. It's a subscription-based model where fleets can sign up and give their drivers best in-content or in-cab premium content that could be delivered at a very, we think, and many fleets out there think, at a really affordable rate. So in the 7-8 years that we've been in business now, we've worked with many fleets across the country, large, medium, and small fleets who have found our services to be really beneficial for their driver on the road while they're away from home.
Yeah. Oh, I imagine so. DirecTV, satellite TV, and the sleeper berth is a great idea for sure. And if I recall correctly, you have a DVR component to that now as well. So while the driver is rolling down the road, your system is recording all their shows for them, and then it's just ready for them when they stop, right?
Yeah, that's right. We've got 2 types of systems, one of which you had spoken of. The Inmotion system does allow for the driver to record content while they're in motion, traveling down the road, and play back as their DVR allows for them, whether it's a movie that they didn't want to miss, or a sporting event, or just their favorite news program, so that they can stay caught up on current events. So nice. They really enjoy that feature, and that's a standard feature that comes along with the services. Is DVRs come with every subscription, with every unit that we put out there that the drivers really appreciate.
Nice. Yeah. So what prompted you guys to get involved with the Best Fleets to Drive For program?
Well, I would say the inference or the connotation best fleets is kind of synonymous with what we try to offer in best in cab entertainment. And when the idea was pitched to us by a very dear friend of ours, Susan Fall, we thought that it was a perfect fit. It was a perfect marriage. There's a reason why fleets are nominated as being a best fleet by their drivers, and we know that our service is very much of a nice to have, and not always a need, but a want by many drivers. And we find that the fleets out there who make services like this available are right there in that mix of fleets who go above and beyond for their drivers, instead of just giving them a paycheck and a truck and lanes. There's perks that come along with it, which really make what you guys do in highlighting those best fleets, and with what we're trying to offer drivers, fleets, and drivers the best that they can get in entertainment. So it was a good match from the beginning, and we're really thrilled and honored to be a part of your guys' program, and just thank you for the efforts that you do to really exemplify or shine a light on fleets that ought to be rewarded for their efforts.
Okay. Yeah, well, that's thanks for that. You mentioned fleets that go above and beyond, and I'm always curious to see what people are encountering, out in the field. You talk to a lot of different fleets. You definitely are seeing some that are using your services that are among the best, that are making the top 20. You see fleets that are sort of working to get there. You see all kinds of different things when you're out sort of in the field. And I guess what's unique about your service is you really are focused on sort of the in-cab experience for the driver. So we see a lot of people that are talking about what happens with the driver when they go to the terminal, or a mobile app that a driver might use when they're doing their work or something like that. But you're really about that kind of almost the experience for the driver when the truck stops is really where you guys focus. But still, the driver's not going home. That truck stop and that sort of parking lot experience. So what do you notice about fleets and how they're approaching that, or what they're trying to do to provide a better experience for their drivers? Do you see differences in how they approach it and success levels, things like that?
We see that every day, and I think that's one of the unique things we have being a partner or a vendor in this space, is we get to talk to hundreds, thousands of fleets every year, and we gain a tremendous amount of perspective with what works and with what doesn't work. When we entered this space as a business, the everyday talk among fleets was retention. It was shortage of drivers, and we thought, hey, we have a perfect opportunity and a perfect product to really help fleets recruit drivers. And we thought that because, personally, have never been a truck driver, spent time on the road, but never been in a cab. And when the truck stops, their life doesn't stop. They may think that a driver, he's going to sleep for 8 to 10 to 12 hours, but the reality is their day may have been filled with stress and a lot of anxiety. And one thing that we try to do is help alleviate that. It's so satisfying and really helps the driver decompress, having something in the cab to kind of put their mind at ease. They've got to worry about their laundry. They've got to worry about, a myriad of things once the truck stops rolling. And all we're trying to do is just offer the driver something to go to bed with and feel easy about, or feel connected to the outside world in a state of really isolation and not a lot of, connection to the outside world, because they're in a box, for 24 hours a day. And what we can do to help bring entertainment, information, sports is our mission and our goal. And we've been really blessed and really fortunate in the short period of time that we've been in business, and certainly partnering with you guys in helping shine a light on what works for other fleets is just that. It's going above and beyond, making available to the driver something that, seems common. Think about it. If you check into a hotel, there's just certain things that you would expect in that hotel room, right? And if you checked into a hotel on the road and it didn't have a form of entertainment for you, what would you do? Would you likely go back to that hotel chain, or would you look for those chains in the future to know where, hey, I can go to bed with the news turned on, or Sports Center, or whatever it is at night, and still be connected and be plugged in. So yeah, for us, it's really been great to saddle our wagon, if you will, to the best fleets, and who are those exemplars, if you will, for what needs to be patterned and modeled after.
Okay.
So.
You mentioned stress and people being isolated. So that's always sort of an issue with drivers being out on the road alone and that sort of thing. But in the past couple of years, it's been taken up a notch, and then several notches beyond. So what have you noticed in the industry in the past couple of years in terms of how fleets are addressing that and what they're doing to help support their drivers?
Yeah, so obviously we're talking about COVID and the restrictions that have happened, within the industry. And I think the best way to answer that question is just to look at driver testimonials. What we hear from drivers on a daily basis. Our customer support team does a really good job of trying to capture what the experience that they have on the road means to them, and helping them stay informed and connected. And giving them something to think about other than masks or vaccines or other things like that, whether it's a comedy show on TV, or whether it's a thriller movie on one of our premium content suppliers or providers, or just a sports program that they want to sit and kick back and watch on their television. So we've found that drivers are significantly more happy and more at ease on the road having a service like this, as opposed to those that don't. And there's lots of forms of media and entertainment we know that exist out there. DVDs existed long before we were ever here. Blu-rays, with Wi-Fi and other things now, people have access to content. And while those things are good and great, this is something that we just look to try to supplement and add to help the driver stay informed, stay connected, and most of all, stay entertained while they're out there on the road. Because again, we believe that a happy driver is a driver that's going to stay with a fleet for a longer period of time when amenities like that are included in their pay package or their benefits package.
Okay. So we're recording this in early March. It's going to be edited and released mid-March, which means it's going to come just before the convention, which we're all getting prepped for now. It's a little more than 2 weeks from today until the big award presentation and the convention itself. So what do you look forward to, or what do you think about when you start planning to attend the convention every year? What are you looking forward to there?
For me personally, I think the thing I look most forward to is seeing the fleets that we had never seen before finally make it, or those that have been nominated but didn't quite make the cut. I think there's a real sense of pride that these owners and these managers take by being up there on stage. And so I think seeing their faces, we have a customer at last year's show who was asking us a lot of questions about it. They learned of our partnership there, and they were asking us, how do we do this? What do we need to do? I really want to be up there, because they really try to make it a point to go above and beyond, for their drivers, what they do. And they know it's a recognition that comes from the driver and helps them. But to know that you're on stage because of what really makes your business tick and what makes the fleets go is the driver is a huge sense of pride that a lot of these companies take very, very seriously. And so for me, again, it's just seeing the excitement on their face and the winners' acceptance of an award, staying humble, being humble, knowing that, they haven't arrived and there's still a lot more that they can do, but they're headed in a really good direction with all of the things that they're doing.
Okay. Yeah, I find I'm always interested in who I'm seeing there and watching them sort of go through that journey from that first time when they're asking them questions to going through the process. And then when they finally make it onto the list, it's always good to see. They're often very excited by it. And when you get to meet them in person at the convention, it's always nice. And I think also the reception after, where we get to talk to the current and past winners as well, and they get to talk to each other. That's always something that I look forward to, is everybody having a chance to just sort of let their guard down and relax and, compare notes and talk about the things that they're doing. That always is a very fulfilling experience, I find.
I'm glad you touched on that. The after party, the cocktail hour, that you guys always host, that you do a really tremendous job with, is fun to see, because it isn't, typical and very common in other industries to share best practices, but being a part of that, it is really good. And to see other business owners talk about, best practices to help the industry, because we all know there's a lot we can do, to improve upon the image and other things. But that's a really fun event that we love being a part of year in and year out.
And is there anything in particular that EpicVue does to prep for the event each year? I know you have to put together a new video, but is there anything else that you guys do to get ready for it?
Yeah, so that video, for us, I don't know, you've kind of seen an evolution of the videos over time, and we have fun with those. We really look forward to making that 90-second clip, because it's our way of expressing, sometimes comically and other times seriously, and recently more seriously, because we know that the industry oftentimes does not get enough praise for what it does. And our gratitude, the appreciation that we try to express, to customers or to non-customers. We don't, we care if you're not a customer of ours. We'd certainly love you to be, but we want you to know, of our support in what you're doing and what your efforts are to keep America moving forward. And with all the challenges that are faced, just try to, in that video, share a little piece of our gratitude. And then another thing I would suggest or say that we do in preparation for the show is we try to reach out to everybody and just extend our gratitude and our appreciation to them. We try to schedule some time with them to just come by our booth and talk and just, understand a little bit about the dynamic of the business and what is working for them and what's not. And if it's a fit between their company and ours, try to make something happen. But yeah, we just try to send as best we can our gratitude and appreciation to all the nominees, to all the runners up, to all those that are there, so that they know it's a big accomplishment.
Well, and if it's not busy enough with the Best Fleets program, you guys are also up there for the Highway Angel program too. So that must just double the amount of prep work that you have to do for the convention each year.
Yeah, the Highway Angel program is another program I appreciate you mentioning, because it's one of those things that it needs to be told. Those stories need to be shared with all the problems and the images, or the image that the industry has in the minds of some. There's enough good that's shared, and that's something that we try to get behind and try to coin the phrase Epic Angel, Highway Angel. Because these drivers, it's hard not to get teary-eyed reading some of those stories, because they are things that I hope to never have to experience personally in my life, coming upon accidents or scenes that they're just horrific. But, thank heavens we have caring individuals out there who at a moment's notice are willing to, slam on the
Mhm.
brakes and pull aside and help when help is needed. So
Hmm. Yeah, for sure. It's a great program. Yeah, we really like that one as well. I think that kind of wraps up the questions that I had. Is there anything that you wanted to add? Any last thoughts on sort of the convention, the Best Fleets program, all of that stuff, what you're seeing in the industry? Any other thoughts there?
well, I've always got thoughts. I guess maybe we're flipping the table and I can ask you questions, which I like. Tell me, and you've probably already covered this in maybe some of your other interviews or other podcasts, and forgive me if you've sounded like we're beating the horse dead here, but what has it meant for you guys to be able to spearhead this program and to bring light on the best fleets, and what have you noticed over the years, from where you started to where you are right now, the evolution of how fleets, try harder to make it?
Well, that's interesting. We don't get asked that question very often, actually. But I could probably fill an entire episode with what we've noticed changing. So we definitely see fleets doing a lot. I mean, every year we have to totally change the way we score it because of the things that people are doing. And stuff that used to be sort of top of the tier in terms of the points or the most elaborate responses, in a couple of years, that's just the standard and everybody's doing it. So the industry really does move forward in a lot of different ways pretty quickly. So that's always really good for us to sort of watch. It's a ton of work to go through it, but it's really interesting at the end to see where it ends up. And I find it very exciting. Yeah, that might not be the right word, because it's a grind and it's hugely stressful going through it, but figuring out at the end who is going to be the winners that year, who are the top 20, who are the overall winners. And it doesn't matter how many interviews you do or what questions we score individually, because there's a whole pile of us that will do the scoring. It doesn't matter which ones you do, you're always surprised by what that top 20 looks like. You always look at that and go, oh, interesting. I wouldn't have expected that. But at the same time, it makes perfect sense, because you kind of go through and you look at it like, okay, yeah, I can see why they made onto the list. But you never know when you start the scoring how it's going to end up. And I always find that, as much as it's a huge undertaking to do that scoring every year, I always find it very fulfilling at the end. So yeah, it's a project that started as kind of I don't want to say a side idea. It was sort of one of those things that we just thought kind of needed to be done, but it's grown to have a life of its own. So yeah, who knew? I mean, the monster that eats itself every year, basically.
Well, perspective is a funny thing, and I think looking at the bar that you guys have set, and it continually gets raised, because of that pursuit for excellence among fleets has really been fun for us to watch and to see over the 5-6 years that we've been involved in this. And we're certainly eager to see what that bar, or how much higher that bar is set, years down the road. So keep up the good work, and appreciate the opportunity to join you today on this podcast. So thanks, Mark.
Okay. Well, then that, I think, will wrap it up. So thanks, Kyle, for your time here. And this will bring us to the end of our episode talking to the sponsors. So stay tuned for more in next month's podcast. And in the meantime, come and join us at the TCA convention.